Howdy everyone, it's me once again, the one and only Killer Rodan, and today I'm still continuing my Disney movie marathon by reviewing the sequel, Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back. So I figured we'd do this because, well, Disney did buy the rights for this particular franchise, so I figured I would just continue to do so, folks. So yeah, I'm considering to review this because of the fact this is a sequel, like I said. So I'm just so you know, folks, I'm reviewing the DVD version of this film because I know there's been multiple different versions on Blu-ray, but those has been altered quite a few times. So yeah, no, I'm not gonna, no. Anyway, so the regular version of this particular movie is what I'm reviewing. So with that being said, folks, of course, as always, I do have to talk about the plot of this particular film, so let's just jump right in, shall we? It begins with Luke Skywalker. He's pretty much in this particular place. It's very snowy, so basically, he's away from his friends, in which he made from the first movie. So that's one way to start off a good movie, is to have these characters be all separated. The lead character here, Luke Skywalker, he's fully aware of the fact that the Empire is rather upset because of the events of what had occurred in the previous movie. So of course they're going to want revenge here, so to speak. But what angers the Empire even more is that the Rebel Alliance at this point of the story had pretty much stretched even further than they would originally, which means they had stretched from the outer rim, so to speak, having more of a grip, which the Empire does not want, obviously. Due to the events from the previous film, it really put a dent in their resources and military might, and also the comedy system as well. So the Imperial Army, which is led by the Emperor, so to speak, folks, because he has like one of the highest rankings in the story. So I guess you're gonna say that he's rather upset. So Vader is told by the Emperor that he has to do something. This is because of the fact that Vader is now in second command. So yeah, a lot of pressure on his shoulders. Anyway, back to Luke Skywalker. Like I was saying, folks, he's particularly in this area, and yeah, he's been searching, investigating and whatnot, what he's supposed to be doing. Yeah, of course, things don't turn out well exactly for him, folks. So as mentioned before, a good way to pretty much start up this story, or any kind of story, is to have these characters be separated. So yeah, he gets attacked by this Yeti kind of a creature, and of course after this he is taken to this particular cave. Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, is set 3 years after the original Star Wars film. So the Galactic Empire, under the leadership of this particular person, and the Emperor as well, they pretty much on the pursuit of looking after Luke Skywalker for their own hands, of course, along with the rest of the Rebel Alliance, obviously. So of course, with the best interest of the Galactic Empire, Vader does chase a small band of Luke's friends, which of course are Han Solo, Princess Leia, and others, of course, across the galaxy. And that's the thing, folks. I guess you can say that at this point of the story, Luke Skywalker isn't exactly a full trained Jedi as of yet, per se. But this would be a primary focus of the story as well, because things will get really heated up as the series of films continue. And yes, of course, because of this, they are ordered to attack other rebel bases as well as they continue on the search. So yeah, of course, folks, the stakes for this particular story are really high, folks. But that's the thing with the sequels, you're supposed to up the endings up a bit more. So in some ways, the sequel does come off more grander in scale. So it comes off like a bigger adventure, which of course you're supposed to. When it comes to sequels, you're supposed to make everything bigger, and that's how this film feels like. Of course, the bounty hunter character makes an appearance in this particular film, and he will play an important role in this story as well, because Vader does need him for his... Of course, Vader is still displeased about what had occurred in previous film, so he's pretty much out for vengeance, so to speak, folks. Want to control everything with the iron fist, so to speak. Kind of like a dictatorship, so to speak, folks. So that's basically what it is. He does run like a dictatorship kind of a thing. So he doesn't like the fact what had occurred in the previous film, so he's really angry. Really mad. So he wants to run his own kind of system? Yeah, this should sound familiar, don't it? I wonder where they could have got this kind of idea from into this and add this kind of thing into the movies. Yeah. Well, to be more precise, I guess you can say, the film is definitely reflecting on the whole idea from the way back when the Roman Empire, folks, is definitely been implied in this film, at least when politically wise anyway, because it definitely created some conflict when it was around. I mean, the thing is, the Roman Empire, and it pretty much ran the place, the society at the time, of course, with an iron fist. It eventually fell apart, of course, due to the fact it acted more of a dictatorship than a democracy for all. And so yeah, this film is definitely implying this kind of a thing going on, which had happened in real life, well, to some degree anyway. So George Lucas here is pretty much doing like an exaggerated version of that, except that it's taking place in outer space, of course, which doesn't have to be a bad thing. There's nowhere ever a scene that takes place on Earth. So I guess that's a good thing, folks, using real life events as inspiration for a fictional world. It doesn't have to be a bad thing per se. It tells a good story there. So yeah, that's fine. Back when George Lucas was actually good at making movies, so he used real life events as a way to serve as an inspiration to tell a good story. I guess you can say the best parts of fiction aren't fiction at all. So he definitely took that to his advantage for his film, of course. So another case in point of what I'm talking about here is that, well, let's just put it this way, folks. Let's just say that he did use the whole Nazi thing as a way to promote the idea that these are the bad guys. These are the people we're not supposed to like at all. They have really brutal methods to control the masses, so to speak. If you don't agree with them, they're going to definitely torture your ass in one way or another. And of course, they're going to have big meetings, of course, and so that, just like we are Nazis in real life, they're going to have their own ways of talking to the masses. And of course, have their own type of weaponry, like the Nazis really want to do. During World War II, the Nazis really wanted to create their own weapons, of course. So this is definitely reflecting that. While it's true that it is extremely barbaric, but that was the idea. Oh, listen to me, and I promise I won't hurt you. If anyone says that this is a way to install fear, well, again, that was the idea over here, folks. These types of people were supposed to be really brutal and really mean in a lot of ways. They're evil. So yeah, the thing is, this is definitely reflecting on how certain events had taken place in real life, especially during World War II. And if, in a lot of ways, this could be like World War II in outer space, so to speak. And again, that was the idea. So I guess that's one way of making this film feel realistic to some degree. Vader isn't a happy camper, of course, as mentioned earlier. Yeah, he's pretty pissed off. He's hunting down the Rebel Alliance to make sure they are struck dead, so to speak. And of course, the character Luke Skywalker does play an important part of the story, of course. So yeah, due to the events of what had occurred from the previous film, so give the film some credit for having some continuity altogether. So it's being consistent with what had occurred, so that makes perfect sense. You know, the whole death story from the other film, folks. Speaking of which, yeah, they do reference it in this particular game, Star Wars Shadows of the Empire, which I played before, folks. It was a good game, so if you've not played that one, give it a shot. It is connected to this particular film. There's one on the other one, and which was eventually turned into it was a novel version of this video game as well, folks, and it's still canon to the films as well. And then later on, afterwards, it was turned into a comic book kind of a thing going on here, folks, which I thought was pretty cool right there, folks. Yeah, there's different versions, but it's basically the same story going on, folks. Speaking of expanded universes, yeah, there's the whole thing with their Star Wars Black Sun, which is basically this, I guess you can say, this criminal syndicate, and they worked hand in hand with the Empire at times anyway. And they have their own little clan thing going on, of course. Think of it like a huge clan kind of thing, folks. Oh yeah, with their own fractions and whatnot. So what I'm saying here is, folks, is that while they themselves may not be a part of this particular government, but they may work side by side from time to time, depending on what timeline of the films you're speaking of, folks. So it does vary from book to book, of course, depending on what timeline you're speaking of, folks. But this kind of a thing had been around for quite a while, is what I'm saying. So of course, they're gonna be helping out the Empire in one way or another. Well, okay, sort of, I guess. As I was saying earlier, folks, Han Solo and Princess Leia, yeah, they're in trouble in their own little ways. Yeah, and this time around, there's a whole thing with the whole romance kind of thing going on, which of course adds to the overall dilemma of the overall plot. And that's the thing, folks. I can say that it does attempt to have more of a story around here, folks, which I did like. So yeah, what I'm saying here, folks, is that I do appreciate the fact that a woman, yep, a woman, does have a great chance, a great role in this particular movie. So I guess you can say she's still considered as a princess, but she still has this, I guess you can say, her own will to do what she wants, of course. So pretty much what I'm saying here, folks, is that even though she may have some power in the military, in some ways, some power, she's getting there, she's really ranking up, but she still has some loyalty going on here, folks, of course, since she is the princess. Well, folks, think of it like this. Here's a good example of what I'm saying. Well, here's a popular character, Princess Anna from Frozen. Just think of her like she joined the Republic, so to speak. Or in this case, the Rebel Alliance in this movie. I mean, while technically in the film she did went out on an adventure, but just think of it like in this particular way, folks. She's still attached to the princess title, but it just imagine she just went a step further, so to speak. She still wants to help in her own way because she does see a good cause in all this. I guess you can say that, yeah, she doesn't have a lot of free time in that manner. Oh boy, her personal life. Oh boy. And yeah, of course, she becomes stressful over the events, of course. And I do like the fact that she does play an important role, maybe more so in this particular movie than she did in New Hope. So she pretty much have more screen time and more character development as well. So that's a plus. Along with the character of Han Solo, he plays a much bigger, much more important role in this particular movie, way more than he did originally in the first film. So I think that's a good thing. The film also builds upon the relationship as well, folks. So that's a good thing, folks. Again, like in the first film, they still don't like each other all that much, but you can say that it's slowly getting somewhere. So you can say that their relationship in this particular movie is definitely growing and growing, becoming much more than it originally was. So that's a good thing because of the fact it shows the characters having their own growth in their own particular way. So the character setup in this particular movie is actually a good thing, is what I'm saying, folks. It does have a great story with great character development. We do need that. And of course, I was saying much earlier with Luke Skywalker, of course he gets stuck in that particular cave, of course. Yeah, it makes you feel kind of bad for the guy when you think about it. He's unconscious, of course. And he was just exploring this particular area until, you know, he wakes up from his unconsciousness. So of course he wants to figure out a way to get the hell out of this place, because it's definitely a scary area for him, folks. So of course he gets stuck for a good little while right in the beginning of the film. So of course this Yeti looking thing, yeah, he's a scary fella, isn't he? So yeah, he's pretty, I guess, aggressive. He pretty much eats flesh, kind of like a cannibal. So of course Luke Skywalker does see this coming, so of course he has to free himself, obviously. So of course he would reach for his lifesaver, of course, from the snow, and he does eventually get it, of course, as the Yeti-looking ugly thing does approach to him. Oh boy, you gotta make it suspenseful somehow, I guess, folks. Actually hangs upside down. Of course, he does have to fight this thing off, of course. Yeah, this thing is actually quite violent, folks. And I don't mind it really, folks. Some people did get some complaints about this. Oh. So yeah, in some ways this film did create some controversy because of the fact, like, scenes like this, if anything, this film actually came out way more darker than A New Hope, which I don't mind really, folks, when I think about it, because when it comes to trilogies, the middle chapter, the second film, should be considered the darkest of the three. In some ways, yeah, this film is pretty dark. Stuff is more intense. Stuff is a bit more gloomier. So yeah, this does get pretty violent and so on in scenes, which I honestly don't mind really, folks. And that's the thing, you do have to put the character in grave danger, because like I mentioned before, these characters in the beginning anyway, they have been separated. So again, you do have to create some sort of suspense, of course. So with that being said, R2-D2 and C-3PO, of course along with Princess Leia and Han Solo, they do worry about the character of Luke Skywalker. They do worry if he's okay. Is he still alive? Where is he exactly? How has he been doing? It has been a while since they spoke to one another. So of course, all this kinds of stuff is being done in the overall movie as a way to pretty much build an entire story. And oh boy, folks, this film did get a rip-off the Turkish Star Wars. Oh boy. That has to be one of the worst films out there. That was horrendously bad. Oh boy. Yeah, that's the film I don't want to see again, folks. No, I don't want to review it. No. You can't make me. That was awful. Anyway, of course, eventually we get to meet the character Yoda, who will become one of the most iconic characters in the Star Wars universe. Yeah, this is the first time that these two characters will actually come across each other. And like I said before, does make perfect sense when you think about it in terms of the fact that he's not a fully trained Jedi as of yet. He does need to grow some patience. And that's the thing, folks. He does speak, the character Yoda does speak to Ben Kenobi in his spirit form. And yeah, they use the Force, of course, how to properly use it. But of course, you can say that Luke Skywalker does become extremely impatient. It's not going fast enough for him. Of course, being impatient can be considered as a character flaw. And that's a good thing. I do like the fact that they show the fact that the character of Luke Skywalker isn't completely perfect. He's not no superhero or anything. He's not completely perfect or anything. And this, of course, tests the patience of Yoda himself. So yeah, he gets rather upset as well, folks. He trained Ben Kenobi when he was much younger. So yeah, he's pretty familiar with this, folks. So yeah, he's doing this teaching. He's kind of like a mentor and a student, a sensei and a student. Yeah, this kind of a thing is going on, folks. Yeah, this kind of a thing had been in the Japanese culture, so to speak. So, if anything, the director, George Lucas, I guess you could say the creator of Star Wars, is using Japanese elements in this particular movie. And of course, the Empire really wants to go after him, of course. They don't know where he is exactly, so Skywalker realizes that the Empire is definitely closing in. And, of course, this just makes him even more impatient, so he wants to train to go even faster. So he eventually leaves this lake area, of course. And yeah, the stormtroopers, like I mentioned before. Yeah, this right here, this little hood thing that the character's wearing. Yeah, this should look familiar. It looks very familiar. Of course, it's a reference to what Hitler had been doing, because he actually called some of his own men stormtroopers as well. So the name stormtrooper had actually came from Hitler himself. So, of course, as I mentioned before, he had wanted to create these super weapons for his army. So I guess you can say, in a lot of ways, that's pretty much what the Empire is doing as well. Using these super weapons to pretty much give them the advantage for domination across the galaxy, to give it a good grip. So, of course, the Rebel Alliance will fight back, of course, in Hoth, obviously. So it does get pretty tense, of course. There's lots of explosions, and it does get pretty violent. I do like the special effects in this particular area. The special effects for an old movie is actually quite good. And of course, eventually we get to see the fact that Luke Skywalker himself would join the fight because he wants to do the right thing. He may not be doing in the right way, but you could say his heart is in the right place. So there's that. And the whole idea with the relationship with Vader and the character of Luke Skywalker gets expanded upon. Of course, it would bring up the whole idea of maybe Princess Leia has something to do with their relationship. You have to see the movie to see what I mean, folks. Just watch the movie. Trust me, you're going to definitely like it. So, yeah, it definitely expands on a lot of ideas in which was already produced in the original film, A New Hope. So, of course, he has to feel connected. So, that's a good thing there. This film does feel connected as a way. And often, this film has been criticized, or I should say praised, for being considered for one of the greatest sequels of all time. This is what a sequel should be. Why, personally speaking, I don't care for sequels, honestly, but this is a rare exception where I do like the sequel. This is a really good one. set designs in this particular movie are really good as well, folks. So I definitely give this film some props for having good set designs. Yeah, this movie's old. It's really old. But that's fine. I like reviewing old movies anyway, so I did like this film, folks. While the sci-fi genre may not be my favorite genre, really, but I'll give credit when credit's due. I don't want this to be a biased review anyway. So, of course, I did like the fact that we have a female lead in some way or another. She's helping the story out in a lot of ways. Of course, we get to see these two characters, folks. Yeah, these two characters will play an important role for this movie and the following film. And that's pretty cool, folks. We get to see a new character, or I should say new characters. So, yeah, they play a good role, folks. So, yeah, this character, we have some sort of backstory with these characters as well, folks. Oh boy. So let's just say that he has a story with Han Solo, so to speak, folks. Yeah, I don't want to spoil too much of the film, folks, but because trust me, this is definitely a must-see. Of course, I do have to make a compliment about the music, folks. The music in this particular film is really top-notch as well. And I can say that the music does help the mood of the story. It does really make it feel like fantasy film come to life. It really does help to create a certain mood and whatnot, especially during the fight scenes, which were really well done, folks. The special effects are top notch as well, of course. I do like the special effects, and considering the fact that this is a really old movie. So yeah, it's a really old film, folks, but everything does come out top notch as well. So the music as a whole does help the film, folks. The special effects are really top notch, even considering the fact that this is a really old film. It actually looks a lot better than what's coming out nowadays. So that's pretty damn embarrassing if you think about it. So yeah, anyway, folks, this film does hold up quite well, is what I'm saying. And again, if you're not seen this film as of yet, I highly suggest you watching this particular film. So yeah, the fight scenes in this particular movie were really well done, folks. I mean, yeah, it may not be the most flashiest fight scenes of all time, but that was besides the point. This film doesn't need tons of fight scenes. It was just the right amount. It was exciting, it was fun, definitely a giant space adventure, so to speak, folks. It just had the right amount of fight scenes. It didn't overdo it like certain movies will do, folks. Yes, that was a stab towards Michael Bay's films. I don't care what anyone says. Michael Bay is an overrated director that can't make a good movie to save his life. Man, this movie is terrible. I've seen his films. They're all awful. He sucks. Just bunch of explosions and fight scenes, explosions and fight scenes, explosions and fight scenes, which will be followed by more explosions, then more fight scenes, then more explosions, then more fight scenes. That's all they were. Just explosions. That's it. It's been confirmed that he wants to do 14 more Transformers films, folks. Yeah, you heard me right. 14! Oh, God. Why Michael Bay? Michael Bay, you suck. Why is he aiming in the director's chair? Just because his movies make a lot of money? Oh, boy. I'm going to need a beer after this, folks. Getting drunk out of my ass for a little while, so I can forget this. Movies are not what they used to be. Yeah. This is one of the reasons I keep going to old movies. Yeah, what I'm saying here, folks, the fight scenes are not so damn excessive like it is in nowadays movies. Yeah, that's the thing, folks. Lots of movies nowadays, when it comes to action, they seem to overdo it quite often, like Michael Bay, for example. And there's no plot to him, really. There's no plot to any of his Transformers films. I mean, granted, this film does have a lot of action, and it does have a very fast pace to it, but that's fine. The action scenes themselves are really impressive to look at. They're not all shaky like it is in the Transformers movies, that's for sure. And so what I'm saying here, the fight scenes alone are really well crafted. The fight scenes in this particular movie are better than any of the Transformers films. That's a damn shame, because this is an old movie. It's really old. So you would think it would be the other way around, folks. So I do think it's a good thing that the good special effects and the story is well applied here. It's well balanced. The action sequences are really well choreographed. They're nicely framed too. They're really nicely framed, and they're really well shot as a whole. They're not shaky. They're not produced like an amateur or anything. So you can obviously tell that the action sequences actually have some care to it, and it was really definitely really well put together, folks. You can tell that there's a great size to these things, folks, which I do think is a good thing. So, but yeah, I really do miss action sequences being done like this in this particular manner. But it's so rarely done nowadays. But yeah, I do like the fact that you get to see a size of these gigantic things. And I know it's just Hollywood magic, sure, but you can tell you're trying to make it seem, they're trying to make it seem it's really magic right here. Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, is definitely a must-see film. It has its own charm to it, of course. It has a lot of fun that the original had. And I did appreciate the fact that it does attempt to have a much deeper storyline than the original. And in many ways, it does. It goes into certain themes of the general story of the characters and whatnot. So that's definitely a good thing there. I do wish that these type of movies could be made nowadays, which doesn't seem likely anyway. Yeah, I do miss these kinds of movies that have this space adventure kind of a thing going on here. I do understand that following up the original Star Wars was never going to be an easy task, but this is definitely actually better than the original, folks. And I did appreciate the fact that the film Star Wars Episode 5, Empire Strikes Back, retrains the same characters and the same sense of fun that the first one had. And then again, it does have an attempt to be a bit darker than original in some sort of ways. And I can say that the battle scenes were really well done, and overall a fantastic film as it is. I did like the overall nature of the film, folks, in the way it carries itself as a whole. I did appreciate the fact that George Lucas and everybody else involved in this film actually took care of the overall project. And I did like how the acting was actually quite good in this one as well. Everybody does the parts perfectly, and they were great as a whole. And I did like how everybody was actually taking this project of theirs seriously. And it did leave an impression in popular culture in a lot of ways. And when you think about it, it never really left, which of course I consider to be a good thing. It just tells me that this film must have done something right over the years. I did think some people out there have missed out in this film, so if you're one of those people that have not seen this film as of yet, definitely check this out. So I can say that George Lucas definitely had the right idea of this particular film, and the sense of direction was actually top notch as well. The sense of direction was really well done, folks. It was top notch as well. Many fans of this film series may argue which is the best film of the series, but so as far as I'm concerned, this one is definitely the best one, at least in the original trilogy. And some people did prefer the third film over this one, and I can understand why, but this one wasn't too bad either. The film as a whole does have a grand adventure, which does make sense because, come on, it's Star Wars. And yes, there's some political stuff going on in this grand scheme of things, which I honestly don't mind. And that's the thing, folks. This film did get some controversy over the violence in here, folks, as mentioned earlier. And the whole deal with the politics. And then, folks, that in itself got some controversy because of the fact they wanted this film to be geared towards children, and having the whole political angle with this particular movie was considered something that shouldn't be done. So a lot of people out there don't like the fact that it gets rather political in a lot of ways. Personally speaking, I don't want these films to be aimed towards kids at all. I swear, do not aim Star Wars towards kids. That's a bad idea. Not every single movie out there needs to be for kids, folks. Come on. Again, I don't mind the structure of the story. I mean, yeah, it's pretty long, folks. It's a little over 2 hours. Just keep that in mind. And some people might think that the whole political angle of this may actually get rather tiring in that amount of time, but I honestly don't mind it. In some ways, you can say that George Lucas was trying to reflect what's going on at the time. So having this whole political thing going on, It's fine. I guess as long as it goes with the story, it's not really much of a problem, really. I mean, it's not shoving its political nature down your throat anyway. It's finding a balance at the end of the day, folks. At the end of the day, folks, this film knows what it is. It knows exactly what it is, folks. So, it doesn't attempt to stray too far away from what it's trying to be at its core. So, I do appreciate the fact that this film is fully aware of what it is, and it doesn't attempt to be any more. And it does have a great plot as a whole. And that's the thing, folks. I do consider filmmaking as an art form. George Lucas is definitely proving that here, folks. I mean, technically, he was not the director of this movie, really. Some other person had directed this film, but he did have his hands on this project. He knew what he was doing, and he didn't want to mess things up. He wanted to make sure that this is a good sequel. And as I mentioned earlier, making a good sequel and making a good follow-up to the Star Wars film was not an easy task at all. So of course he has to realize what to do exactly. Yeah, there's an additional love story going on here, folks, but it does fit within the grand scheme of things, folks. I don't mind the love story, really, folks. It's pretty charming in its own way. It does fit in some ways, of course. I don't mind it, really. I know that did bother some people, folks. Some people didn't like the love story that was going on in this particular movie. But personally speaking, I don't mind, really, folks. I honestly don't mind the love story in here, folks. Because the thing is, in the grand scheme of things, this was a great treatment to quality of a film, folks. It shows that you can have great special effects and a great story. I'm bringing this up because of the fact that usually when you think about it, you can't really have a good story and great special effects. Yeah, usually, I'm saying this because of the fact that usually it's one or the other. If you want a good special effects, there's a bad story. If you want a good story, there's bad special effects. This is one of those few times where you can actually have both. Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, remains an exciting, extremely powerful, and really well made installment in the Star Wars film series. And I did like that, folks. And I will say that it's breathtaking in a lot of ways, and the grand adventure of this particular film is not as often you get to see a film as good as this particular movie that was released in the cinemas, and then follow it up with a grand sequel that's just as great, if not better in this case. Star Wars was a fantastic film as a whole, and this one was an improvement on the original film. This is a gigantic movie upon its release, folks. And when the sequel came out, it did get lots of positive reviews. I mean, granted, at first it got really mixed reviews. At first it got really mixed views. Because the thing is, at first, a lot of people, as I mentioned before, were really complaining about the violence here, folks. Oh boy. A lot of people did not like the level of violence this film had. So, yeah, that seemed to bother a lot of people for some odd reason. So it did get some controversy because of that. Which I don't understand. It's a Star Wars. I mean, again, listen to the word Star Wars. The word Wars is in its title. So of course there's going to be some violence. What were you expecting exactly? That's just stupid. Top quality sci-fi films such as this, for example, has gone away like the dodo bird as far as I'm concerned. Because having sci-fi films done like in this particular manner, they don't do it anymore like this, folks. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are other fantastic sci-fi films out there. This is not the only one, but especially nowadays, folks, I can feel that that the way that this is done, folks, because of the fact that they don't care as much like they did with this particular film, folks. You know, you have lots of memorable characters, and I felt that these characters in their own way felt very human, I guess you can say. You can tell these characters have compassion for one another, they care, even though they're in a hostile environment kind of a thing going on, but they still have some remorse for other people, or even aliens for this case. So of course you can say that that's the thing, folks. The writing is really good, is what I'm saying. The script writing is definitely top notch as well. The script writing is really well done, folks. They knew what they were doing for this, folks. It might have taken them quite a while to get it just right, but they did it, folks. They really did it. And I would say check this film out if you have not as of yet. Often listed as one of the greatest sequels of all time, and rightfully so. Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, gets an overall rating of an 8.8 out of 10. It gets an 8.8 out of 10 from me. And of course, as always, thanks for watching. Take care, folks. Oh yeah. And if you don't mind me, I'm gonna watch this film once again. Yes, sirree. See ya. Oh yeah.